I've changed it to Carlo like Freaky Friday.
Whoa.
How'd that happen?
And now I'm in Carlo Edro's body.
Hey, everybody.
Yes.
My name is Ryan. Welcome to Always More Line, episode 3.
I am Justin Beaumont. I wear a bow tie, and I am also part of episode 3.
I'm Danny, a.k.a. DJ Dalladan.
Unmute
You're
yourself.
on mute, Dante.
That's Dante.
Nuggets. Hi, guys.
Oh, no.
All right, I'm Carlo. I have the greatest standing float serve in the East Coast.
Hey guys, I'm Phil. I'm the Australian dude.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Today we have 2 guests on the show. We're going to talk to Ron Dunn, who's just joined us on screen. Hey, buddy. We'll get to you in 1 sec. And then we're going to get to Jason Jones. Jason Jones is he's the director of JBJ Events, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about running events in the midst of this situation. So without any further ado, Ron, how you doing, buddy?
Dude, I am going mad. Yeah, I'm losing my mind.
I'm in the same boat. I don't think I was ever prepared for something like this. And now I don't really know what to do because I've already taken 2 showers today and cooked 3 times. And I'm still sitting here like, what do we do? So, Ron, I wanted to have you on tonight because I have some fun games set up for you. I also have some questions about the NBA and then you personally. But before we get started, I want you to just tell the audience who you are, where you're from, kind of a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get going here. Oh, wait. Before we start, I need to know your favorite song. Your favorite song of all time.
Favorite song of all time.
First one that comes to mind. One that you think you know like really well.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
Good
Cool.
answer.
Now tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I was born in Philadelphia, and then I came across the river into Jersey and stayed here ever since. South Jersey, though, not you Northerners. That place sucks. Kenny knows what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Wow.
A few months ago now, before the men's volleyball season had started, we went and did the alumni match at Kane. And I was like driving up the Parkway, and like the Parkway is fine in South Jersey, but as soon as you get like past 130 on the Parkway, all of a sudden like everyone's an asshole. I just realized like, oh my God, like I went to school here for 5 years and I just now remembering how angry I always was all the time. And I was like, it's just because it's North Jersey. And I got out of that place and I live in relaxed South Jersey now.
Tell us a little bit about your volleyball experiences, like how you started playing, what position you first played, and then a little bit about your journey.
So I definitely have a different journey than most guys, I would say. I was a 5'3" tall freshman in high school, like maybe 120 pounds with a little subcutaneous on the front side. Like I was a 3-sport person. I knew that was going to happen. I was in junior high as well. Like I liked playing a lot of different sports. And springtime rolled around in high school, and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. The tennis coach wanted me to play tennis, but I'm not going to play tennis. So I signed up for volleyball. Played 1 season as essentially a libero. I was, again, really, I could almost walk under the net. Like Justin knows what I'm talking about. And
yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I spent a year as basically a libero, played JV. We didn't have a freshman team, so I played JV. And then sophomore year, big bad 5'8" guy. This is a true story. There was a kid who was a senior. He was a setter. His block was this high, and my block was about that high.
Oh.
So I set out of the middle.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So for three years playing volleyball, setting out of the middle, it was interesting. And Joe Gillespie never had an assistant coach. The school wouldn't pay for it, but he did what he could. And some of the things he did in hindsight, I wish he had trained me more properly. Like he was all about like, just face the person you're going to set. So it didn't matter if I was setting an outside or setting a right side or setting back row. He was just like, just face the person that you're going to set.
Well, so what else did Joe do in the practice space? Because I know that guy playing against him. He's a super energetic, mostly angry, it seemed like. As far as the practice space and training under him, what did he do in the practice space and what did you learn from him?
I learned a lot from him. Honestly, I would say most of what I learned from him was in staying after practice. Me and him would play one-on-one after practice a lot. And I mean like full court one-on-one games no mercy.
Nice.
If you can hit the ball, hit the ball. If you can ace me 25 times, ace me 25 times. And then afterwards, we'd have a Coke and a smile. That was always Joe's thing. Regular practices were a little interesting. He was constantly just looking to find athletic people and bring them in to play volleyball, which is a little bit of a challenge. A lot of the kids that played football and basketball wanted to do track. So getting those guys away from track and getting them into volleyball is a little tricky. And a lot of guys would come in for, a couple weeks during the season and then just kind of fizzle out, whether it was outside issues or they just wanted to do something else. I would say my first year of practices as a setter, my sophomore year, Joe would hand me a ball and he had this big contraption with a trash can that he made on the basketball net that would send the ball back to you if you made it in. And he would say, stand at the free throw line and toss the ball and set it into the basket. And then do that like 50 times. And then toss the ball, turn around and back set it into the basket and do that like 50 times. So my first half of every practice was just setting into the basketball net. And then he would go work with other people on whatever skills they needed. The only time that I was ever able to get more attention, because once you had a skill down that you needed, and he knew you were someone that would work on it, he would just kind of put you out and work on it. We had some older guys that would come back, and that was always a good time.
I want to fast forward here a little bit because that journey to now, when did you graduate high school? What year?
2011.
So 9 years later, you're playing on Team Freedom in the NBA, a professional level team, playing against some of the best players in the country. You've been all over the country and even the world at this point. You've played in different places. For young volleyball players that might be watching, or other coaches or players that don't know you, what is a goal of yours for Team Freedom for the NBA?
Oh, I want to win the entire team. But I'm not really a big individual accolades guy. I've spent a lot of my career, whether it's true or not, I don't talk to a lot of people about it. Cheesy saying, but the chip on the shoulder idea.
Sure.
I've always felt, I think a lot of it comes to the fact that I didn't play clubs. So I didn't know a lot of people coming in, playing college, and then coming in and joining with Team Freedom. I didn't know a lot of the guys before that. I don't know. I always felt like I was being viewed skeptically. So I've always spent basically my whole career I'm just as good as you. I think a lot of times, especially during college, I thought I was better than I actually was. But a lot of it was me looking towards the future. If I look back, I was actually, given how much time we have at home right now, I was looking at really old film. I was actually looking at a video Kenny had posted up. It was Swagger versus Kane from a tournament
way long ago,
8 years ago or something crazy. Yeah. And looking at myself in hindsight, it was oh my gosh, I was terrible. I was horrible. And at no point did I feel like I was horrible. I always felt like I was I kind of had I felt like a year or two ahead vision of what I was as a player. But yeah, I want our team to have success. I enjoy our entire team. We've had such good chemistry. We've had such good ups and downs together. And knowing that we can compete with these guys is a pretty cool thing to experience, given the whole hey, a lot of us are all just D3 athletes. We just went and played volleyball because we fucking like to play.
That's what I was going to mention about the chip on the shoulder. Division III players playing against Division I professional overseas players. It's a cool dynamic.
You mentioned the interesting coaching style that you were brought up on. How do you think that impacted your career as a college athlete and now playing in the NBA?
Oh, long term, I think it was great. I mean, Joe made me someone that wanted to work hard individually. I want to show up early. I want to stay late.
All right. So is this all volleyball related, or are we going to have fun with this?
No, anything you want. Please have fun.
Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Pork roll.
Oh, okay.
When you're setting against other teams, do you scout them? And if you do, what do you look for most in the other teams?
Scouting has been kind of tough because there's not a lot of video on the teams that we play, at least not reliably. Even if it's a team that we know we want to play, you might not know any of the dudes who's going to show up for a tournament.
You're talking about the NBA, right?
Yeah, NBA or even men's tournaments. I mean, any scouting for men's tournaments, there's usually, I would say, 3 teams at a tournament where it's all right, we got to show up against those guys. It's not easy to find a lot of footage to scout other guys. I do really love film. I think a lot of the guys that I play with would, know that about me. I like to look at plays at least 12 times because I want to see each play based on what each player on the court did, both on my side and on the other side of the net. I think watching film is super useful. I wish that after one season of the NBA, we'll have a little bit more ability to know who we're going in and playing against, but we haven't had that chance too much, really.
All right, I'm going to go for a volleyball trivia question. This is something that maybe you don't need to know, but it's definitely a fun fact about the sport that I think a lot of us are unaware of. And that question is, when was the libero player introduced? in international
fuck.
volleyball?
I have no idea. This is like some short person revolution. Had to be. I'm gonna just throw a number out and say it was 1981.
That's a little early. A little early.
I have no idea.
Correct answer is 1998.
Yeah, that's so close.
Nailed it.
Ron, I got a fun game for you. It's called Finish the Lyric. I'm going to give you 5 songs. I'm going to read a couple lyrics to you, and you have to follow with the next few words. And that could be like the next 3 words, the next 5 words, however many you can know. The first song is My Humps by the Black Eyed Peas. And the lyric I'd like for you to follow is Dolce & Gabbana.
Something wanna.
Nailed it.
That's close, right?
I was on the same page as you where I just made sounds. Whenever this song comes on, I think I just like, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. And like, I found out today that the actual lyric is Fendi and Madonna. And actually, Dante McCoy knew this lyric for whatever reason. He knew that, and I don't know why. Good answer, Dante. Good answer.
Dante, if I had to pick one person on the panel that would know it, it would have been you.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
I don't know how familiar you are with Kings of Leon, but the song is "Sex Is on Fire."
Heard it.
And the lyric is "All the Commotion."
All the commotion.
Sex in the ocean.
Hey, good answer. Good answer.
Bonus points for the rhyme there.
Yeah. So it's "All the Commotion," the kitty like play.
Nobody knew that.
Nobody knew that. All right, the next one's real tough. Really TBT here. It's a throwback. It's the Barney theme song. And the lyric I would like for you to follow is "With a great big
hug and a kiss from you to me."
That is absolutely correct.
Is that really it?
lyric."
Me to you.
The lyric is "Me to you." Correct.
Got it.
Hug and a kiss from me to you. Very nice.
My
Yes.
man, my man.
We have 2 songs left. Second to last is going to be Busta Rhymes, "Look at Me Now." At one point in the song, he says, "And I'm feeling like I got to get away, get away, get away."
Because you smell like real bad.
That's it. I think that's it. Right? That's the one.
That's it. That's obviously that's it.
Nailed it.
Good answer.
Feeling like I got to get away, get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop. And I think a lot of people just mumble that part. And then the last song is Bohemian Rhapsody. And the lyric I would like for you to follow is, "So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye."
Thinking something and spit in my eye. So you think you can love me and leave me to die?
Nailed
Oh, baby.
Yes.
I had to sing that
Very
one.
nice.
Excellent.
I really appreciate you coming on. Basically, our goal here is to try to interact with as many volleyball people as we can during the quarantine, see some familiar faces, talk volleyball, talk coronavirus, and talk as much professional level volleyball as we can, especially with guys who are starting to play that. So appreciate you coming on, and I hope to have you on again.
I was speaking to a couple of my setter friends that I have played with, and you being one of them. I personally wanted to know, what is the biggest trouble you find with a prominent right side, but just right sides in general? What's the biggest glitch you have with setting right sides as opposed to anything else?
I don't know. What I look for in right side is just a dude who wants a nice high ball that's not supposed to be tempo. You can use it when you need
Dante.
to.
No, not.
I'm out. I am out.
Maybe Phil, you can probably give your opinion on this from some international ball, but my opinion is that the right side is such an oddly approached position in the US. I feel like we underutilize it. I felt like a lot of the high level volleyball I watched, the right side's your best spiker no matter what. And essentially it's because if you want to run a relatively spread out offense, your right side hitter is going to get the most opportunities to spike the ball. Even if your right side is a really, really good outside, if he's your best spiker, he should be on the right side. It's the only position where there are 2 hitting positions for one person. Every other position is a different ratio, a smaller ratio, where like the middle is 1 hitting position for 2 people and the outside is 2 positions for 2 people, where the right side is, I have 2 positions. I am the only person on this side of the net. And if you want to keep the block spread out evenly, that should be the number one thing, is having your best spiker there.
You like those high ball opposites, those crushers.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, and if you can, and when you work tempo in, I think that's great. But like our guy, like John Lutz, it doesn't matter when he's on. It doesn't matter if there's a double block up. It doesn't
He's
matter
quite
if
the
they
bruiser.
throw a third guy. He's just.
And he's not
fucking
going
big
to hit a
dude.
quick ball in system or out of system.
Right.
He's hitting
And
high
yeah,
ball.
he'll tell you like he thrives on the high ball. It also makes it a little easier. You get a little more wiggle room with like error on the set when it's a high ball. If it's
Right.
off by 2 feet on a high ball, he has time to adjust to that. Where on the tempo ball, it's a lot harder to adjust.
If you're off by 2
Absolutely.
feet on a tempo ball, you're a really bad setter.
Yeah, I mean, well,
I haven't played
Oh.
with you yet, Phil.
to Phil's point, I mean, Phil's played a number of years overseas. I haven't played as many as him, but in my experience, opposites want a quick ball. And like they kind of have to have a manage between out of system, high ball, can still put it away. But in system, I've played with some guys that are like, it basically needs to be a middle 30, just
Yeah,
the other
behind
way.
you.
And for me, it's like, okay, I mean, it's fast.
When I was really getting into volleyball, Clay Stanley was the man.
Yes,
And Clay
absolutely.
Stanley's not looking for anything crazy. He just give him a ball to go pound, and he's going to get you kills.
Think about how much pressure that takes off the setter. Because if you're trying to worry about running a tempo ball, if that right side just like, hey, throw it up out there, it kind of takes the load off of you as a setter, and it's their job to just do something with the ball that you give them.
I'm a big fan of being really good at vanilla. Communicating in like any situation is the thing I would say that causes the most trouble. Like again, when I'm working with Lutz, I know he wants a high ball, whether it's a perfect pass or whether I'm 30 feet off the net. He doesn't have to communicate to me what ball to give him when the pass is in that intermediate zone where is it a tempo type situation or is it not? Whereas like with other types of players, like, you know, you're at that ball, like you're talking about, Kenny, where it's like, well, am I still in a spot where they want it tempo and expect it tempo, or have I moved to that out of system situation?
Yeah, and it's just like it's playing with guys for long enough of a time. That's one of the benefits of these of team freedom in the NBA is that in contrast to other teams in the league, that core group has been together for years. You know, you have the benefit as a setter of in those odd situations where it might be a gray area for a lot of teams, you probably know what's going on with your guys and what they expect. And that chemistry is just, it's been in the works for a lot longer. And I think that's a huge benefit going into maybe this season. Right?
Season 2021.
Yeah.
All right, Ron. Appreciate you, buddy. See you soon.
Yeah.
Hi,
See
buddy.
you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Jason, how are you, man?
What's going on, guys?
How's everything going? How are you?
Getting there. How you guys up in your neck of the woods?
We have enough time to do this, so I guess everybody's still inside, right? Jason's been on the program with us before. He helps run events, volleyball programs all over the country. Last time we talked to him, we were talking to him about the recent COVID situation and how it's affected his ability to run events, and more so his ability to interact with potential venues to see if they will host. Do you have any updates or any news about how things are going as far as planning, or what's been going on in your line of work?
Well, the good thing is we were able to secure the Harrah's again down in Atlantic City on May 30th and 31st. The challenge we're running into and what we're running into is you have all these different event promoters that are chomping at the bit for space, and a lot of the spaces like the Atlantic City Convention Center, they're shutting down for 3 months. 2 months is going to be for like a satellite secondary hospital, and that's going to take a month to clean. So space is becoming very limited.
Really quick, want to give a plug for the business you work for and the events you've done in the past and maybe things you're looking to do in the future.
We started a company, it's called JBJ Events, 2 years running now. Before we started events out in Las Vegas, our biggest event was called the Fireball Challenge and the In It to Win It Challenge, where we built 5 beach courts and 14 indoor courts, all underneath the same venue. So we had a Queen of the Beach tournament going on while the indoor tournament was going on at the same time.
Where was that?
That was at Mandalay Bay. We brought in about 1,500 tons of sand. Yeah, that's, if you can imagine, about 67 dump trucks wrapped around a casino waiting to load in, plus the loaded in of the indoor courts and having that all going on at the same time. And by the way, we had no idea what we were doing. We just dumped sand on the floor and figured it out. So.
Just dumping sand in a big area.
So Jason, about the tournament, I know you run independent, but for example, our region, the GIWA region, canceled the season. Have you felt any pushback from any regions that have done similar things, in in a region where you're trying to run a tournament?
We've always done either independent or AAU. We never really did anything with USA. Not opposed to it. It's just there's a lot of hoops and bureaucracy you have to deal with USA. The only pushback we have gotten is some emails saying, hey, USA is not affiliated with this event. But from the club director's side and teams, right now, everybody just, they want to get out of the house. They want to play.
We got an email recently from USA Volleyball at Large saying, as of now, we think Nationals is going to go on. And that's an event, USAV, that takes place towards the end of May, Memorial Day weekend. So that's, we've heard of certain companies and certain events postponing dates that are past that. So does that give you any optimism or anything to think about with, your event planning?
It does, because if big events like that, Nationals, and even in other industries, like, I don't know if you're familiar with EDC, they have a huge event out in Las Vegas, and that event's going on the 15th and 16th of May. And that brings about 300,000 people to Vegas. So with events like that going on and still in the books, it gives us, a little bit of hope that, big events are going to happen.
You and I were talking about AAU Nationals because they've offered adult Nationals in Orlando, Florida. I don't actually know how long they've been doing it, but one of the things that we talked about was if we were able to host adults down at Harris, maybe making that like a bid type tournament for the adults to try to get entry fee paid for AAU Nationals for adults. And I think a lot of people might feel a little bit better about going to Orlando, Florida for adult Nationals, especially if it's later than they would to Minneapolis Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, and I never knew AAU actually had adults until the last couple of years. And I never knew that AAU actually had, the biggest tournament in the world down in Orlando for Nationals. I always went to USA stuff. And then when JVA came out, and if you went to the World Challenge and you wanted an entry fee, so it was 7 years ago, my first time I went to Orlando, and I walked into this tournament, and there's 200 courts in Orlando, plus there's another 50 over at ESPN Zone. I mean, plus you're in Orlando, and for some reason with Nationals, they always put the location in somewhere cold.
The likeliness that people will be attracted to Orlando over Minneapolis is probably pretty high. Minneapolis is a great city. It's just Orlando is Orlando. One of the things that I know I've been getting questions about, how far into the summer are we willing to push this indoor thing? And we talked about this on one of our previous shows with Chris Vaughn. Is there a point where outdoor players just basically say, all right, it's over. I'm not playing indoor anymore. I'm going to go outdoor. What's the latest you would do a tournament into the summer? Like, what is the latest we could run an indoor tournament?
I think the middle of June. When I lived out in Vegas and even down here in Florida, I coach beach a lot. The month of July, everybody's usually out in California because there's the AVP, there's AAU, there's the BBCA. There's so many tournaments. If you want to go get seen by a college coach, you're out in Cali. Volley America, now they're the AVP America or wherever the name is now, but they did a really good job with the Jersey event the last couple of years. They're getting a lot of exposure up there. But to answer your question, I think the second week of June, I think if we go past that point, then we're going to lose a lot of athletes.
Once you get into that Junior Nationals week, the end of June, early July, it's over at that point. And I saw that they rescheduled NEQs. Now it's the same weekend as Lone Star. So we're going to get into some conflicts as clubs trying to pick which tournaments we want to go to for makeups. But I think the Atlantic City options are great, especially because the parents love that location and it's pretty simple for some of the Northeast to get to. We just got to wait it out and see when they're going to pull the plug on this thing.
And that's the thing we've been telling everybody. One, going back, I want to touch back with your adult question you had. We're asking everybody just to register right now. We don't want you to pay, but just, what it's going to be the week of, or 2 weeks before the event when everything's cleared and everybody gets to go. So we understand that. However, we'd like to have, the clubs and teams register so people say, okay, these teams are going to go, let's sign up, rather than waiting 2 weeks prior, if that makes sense.
And from a logistical standpoint, how far before do you have to start your prep? When do you have to start setting up courts and get an idea of, hey, this thing's going to happen, we need to get ready for it, or this thing is not going to happen?
That's another thing is we take a risk because there's only so many people that rent courts in the country. We don't own our own courts because it's a high price point. Yeah. So with the Lone Star going on and all these other events, if we don't secure the court rentals, which is, 20 courts with the trucking and everything, you're looking about, 16, 17 grand that, we got to come out of pocket just to secure them, Plus we got to sign the contract with the hotel, because if not, they're going to try to fill the space too. It's one thing if we go to the hotel and say, hey, we have 80 teams registered, they're not paid, but they're on the books, rather than saying, hey, I got 2, but I got 20 clubs that are saying, yeah, they're for sure. It holds a little more weight if we have something on paper,
Correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to try to host adults at these events as well.
Absolutely. Nice thing about AAU membership, it's $18 for adults.
Yeah.
And that covers everything.
Not 65 like
As
USA
opposed to USAV.
I know once this thing is done, there's going to be thousands and thousands of volleyball adults that want to just get out and play. So any event that's available to them, they're going to jump all over it. So I think it's really important for people to know that there are events out there and that we're going to do our best to try to provide that for them. I should say you are, and we're gonna try to promote them as best as possible. I've already spoken to at least 12 captains that said, hey, if there's an event in May and this quarantine is over, we're in. That's really cool. There'll be a cash prize, I'm assuming, and then there'll also be an opportunity maybe for a bid for nationals. So that's awesome.
This pandemic is such that it's going to start improving in certain areas before others. So as an event planner, certain areas will clear up geographically, and maybe that's where you want to go first. But I guess my question for you is, as this improves in certain areas before others, how do you find out which places are open to start running tournaments again? And the second would be, if places are open and they say, hey, we want to run an event, how can they get in touch with you?
It's like playing chess on 4 different games at the same time with the same. It's a gambit. We've been going to conferences and we have some connections out there with different convention and visitor bureaus, sports commission people, people like Mike Mon, where we try to stay connected with different people. So we hear about Las Vegas going on, we hear about what's happening here in Florida, Jersey, New York, California. So we just try to keep our ear pressed to the pavement, and something pops up, we share the information. Everybody wants to know. So being transparent, it's just, we got to get the message out, and we have to do something, nobody wants to sit here and go crazy, sitting, getting stir crazy at home.
And is there a way that if someone is watching perhaps that says like, my area is looking pretty good, we want to get our events going again, is there a way that they can contact you? And do you want to give a quick plug for your business and how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can share my information all day long. It's, jbjevents.com. Information's on there. Feel free to reach out. I'm an insomniac, so I don't sleep too much. So whenever.
Jason, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. There's no doubt that after this whole thing finishes, you and I are going to sit down at some point, hopefully in Puerto Rico, and have a beer and just chat about how we can make this shit like really awesome. We've been talking about that for months, but I think it needs to come into a reality. But hey, I really appreciate you, man. All of us on here, I can speak for everyone that your work is not going unseen, and we appreciate it. I'm pretty sure we'll have you on again at some point to update us on events.
Yeah, anytime I can share information and help everybody out, I'm 100% in.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for hopping on, Jason.
Thank you so much. Thanks, man.
Yes,
Jason, thank you. I appreciate it.
Right. We are joined by a weird fisherman. His name is Mike Kucha. He's an assistant coach at New Jersey City University alongside 2 of our panelists, Carlo and Justin. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you for having me. It's my first time on this podcast as a guest. I don't know Phil here. Phil, pleasure to meet you. I'm very familiar with everyone else here. It's nice that you guys are trying to get the volleyball community involved, especially in this tough time right now. It's a very interesting time for everyone on Earth and our generation all together.
Before we get into some formal questions, what are you doing to pass the time? Have you been watching movies? What are you doing?
So I got on staff at New Jersey City University with Coach Beaumont, literally, I believe, a day before the season started, and it kind of really worked out. It was really good timing. Justin and I played volleyball together in high school, and we always talked about coaching together, and right place, right time, and we kind of got it working. And so I'm actually a police officer in Bayonne, New Jersey, so that's my full-time job, and I very lucky I was getting the bug, the itch to coach again literally at the same time that me and Justin got to reconnect and talk and catch up.
One of the things that I know I've been going through, and a couple of people that I've spoken to have been going through over the last couple of weeks, is we don't really know what the heck is going on here. The two main reasons for you to come on tonight is, number one, we knew that you were going to look the way that you do, and that was so important that we had you on. And number two, we wanted to hear from a perspective of the person, someone at the front of the line. We've already spoken about someone in the healthcare department with Carlo's wife and gotten that inside scoop. And we want to get it from a criminal justice standpoint. What have you been seeing and hearing? Obviously, your job allows you to get a little bit more of an inside scoop. So tell us a little bit about that.
I work with probably the best men and women that I know with the Bayonne Police Department. My chief does a great job of trying to provide us with the right tools and protection to avoid any type of contamination or infection. I haven't seen my parents in 3 weeks. I haven't seen my girlfriend in 3 weeks. I've been quarantining myself. I'm facing different tasks and different things on a daily basis where I could be potentially infected or exposed to the virus. So individually, I think everyone is trying to put themselves in a position where they do protect their own. What I think is very important for everyone to know, this is a real thing. I know people that have gotten sick. I have friends that have relatives and family members that have gotten sick and passed away. Guys, this is no joke. I'll admit it. The first couple weeks, I thought it was just like a regular flu, and unfortunately isn't.
With that being said, what is your timetable? Like, what is your feeling as to when volleyball is going to happen again for juniors or adults? Like, when do you think?
I'm a very optimistic person. I really am at the end of the day, but I'm also a realist. I think summer's canceled.
So just like there's no NEQs, there's no junior nationals, no adult nationals.
We're supposed to hit our peaks in April. That today's what, today's the 31st. Tomorrow's April 1st. And this ain't no April Fool's joke. This is a real life thing. Carlo lives it every day.
Yeah.
Every day he lives it because his wife is on the front line. The nurses, the doctors, the people in the medical field, those are heroes.
For those of us just joining us, we are Always More Line. We're a volleyball talk podcast. And right now we have the pleasure of having Mike Kucha on. Mike is an assistant coach at New Jersey City University alongside Carlo and Justin. In addition to that, Mikey is he's a police officer in Bayonne, New Jersey. Mike, I just wanted to ask, what would you say to residents of New Jersey? Because we are next to New York. We border New York at the most cases in the country. Do you have any advice, any sort of words of wisdom to the citizens about what they should be doing or how they should be living at this time?
Stay home, find hobbies. If you got to meditate, look, it's a stressful time. I'm losing my shit at home. I am. Yeah. It's hard to be home for a long period of time and try to keep your sanity. But whether you meditate, you read a book, you watch a Netflix series, you go on, you video chat, you do happy hour, whatever it is, you got to find a way to cope. Right now for Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, we're extended another month. Virginia, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, extended their lockdown until I believe it was June 10th. Unless everyone's on the same page, this is not going to go away.
When we talk about like social distancing policy, right, and like simple things such as you said, staying home, let's be very clear. Like these are things we can do right now that we might not even see the benefits of for another 2 or 3 weeks. How important is it for us to take it seriously right now before the numbers get high?
It's sometimes hard to take in realization of 6 feet away, like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal.
Rather than us worry about the events in the next month or two, what we should really be doing is taking your advice, taking the CDC's advice, taking all of the medical professionals' advice and saying, let's do the hard work now so that like things like the fall season and semester aren't canceled. It's not about nationals or NEQs. If those things happen, great. If this stretches into July and then August, we're talking about not having preseason for women's volleyball, not starting school, And I think we need to take it serious now. And that's how it's sounding to me.
I think this is going to stretch into those months. If we did do this for 2 weeks and the infected stayed in the hospitals and in quarantine and everyone else stayed inside for 2 weeks, and it's hard to do that because people need food, people need gas, people need their exercise. This would work out, and maybe it would go away or the numbers would subside substantially. I was in my apartment for 2 days and I'm losing it.
Yeah, no.
Really,
I'm in the same page.
for so much. Again, I haven't seen my girlfriend in 3 weeks, and it's like, sure, we FaceTime. We even started doing we started cooking together, which is good, which is fun, But
That's
it's
cute.
It's cute, but it's like, damn, man, the CDC knows what should be done. They're giving us the guidelines, and it's on us to really obey them. Sure, it sucks. It sucks in the short term, but the long-term benefit is always going to be better than what the short term is.
I saw some videos in India where they had police officers literally just clubbing people who are out not following social distancing.
Yeah, just hitting
Saw that.
We technically can't do that. But if you could think of something to kind of enforce people to take staying at home seriously, what exactly would you do?
There's no right answer. You go into fines. You give people $1,000 fines, $2,000 fines, like we've talked about, but people aren't working. Where are people supposed to get this money from?
But on a more positive note, tell us about your comeback into coaching, what it felt like, how that transition was, how it's like dealing with your day job and then your volleyball coaching job.
I asked Justin, hey, how things are going, who's he's hiring. I got to coach. I was very lucky. I got to coach Division I volleyball for a few years in my early 20s, which was a dream job. I always wanted to come back to New Jersey. I love Jersey, and he offered me a job, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, 100%. I told Justin kind of what I am able to do. We agreed, and it slowly evolved. Now I'm with Carlo again. I haven't coached men's volleyball since I think my final year in college. I had to retire due to injury. It's a blessing in disguise. I love it. I love the girls. I treat the athletes like they're my daughters and my sons. Coaching Division III is definitely a little more challenging than it is coaching at the D1 level. But I love it. I'm close to home. We're a blue collar type school. We work hard, we get after it. And those are the type of athletes we're trying to get into university, which is a direct reflection of Carlo and Justin.
I want to open this up a bit. We have Carlo Edra here, head coach of the men's volleyball, New Jersey City University. Justin Beaumont, head coach of the women's volleyball, NJCU, and Mikey is assistant to both of them. So I kind of want to open this up to the three of you. What are you guys doing in the practice space, to improve your team? And how are you guys as Division III coaches preparing for the next season? Given what the situation we're in, but from a volleyball perspective, what are you guys doing to take your team to the next level?
We all separated to try to follow our dream. What really brought us together, I believe, is Sean Tucker, which is the athletic director. They brought in new leadership into the university. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Sean Tucker is probably one of the biggest reasons we came back.
Yeah.
The big picture he has for the university, and the support he puts behind us. Any athletic department or sport within an athletic department is only going to be as successful as the support they get. We're trying to work our tail off, recruiting and adjusting to the climate we're at. Reaching out to athletes based on their video. It's a little different for us because we're not able to see them in person. But we're taking it in strides. We're trying to adjust to what's going on here. But what they're doing as head coaches is phenomenal. They're doing a great job trying to bring these and elevate these programs to we're trying to bring them up to national level here.
Me right now, I'm kind of in the stage where I'm collecting all my thoughts and information I've got from all the matches we played this year. I'm kind of like summarizing every player, figuring out what our strengths are, what weaknesses each guy has, and how we're going to fix those weaknesses into next season. And I'm sure heading into the summer, Justin is kind of, these are my girls that are coming. These are the girls I have. Now he has to figure out how he's going to have them mesh. Right now, I'm just in that end of season mode where I'm kind of trying to reflect on the season right now. I'm a big notes guy, so I'm writing down all that all the stuff we got to work on for next season. also trying to get the guys to, recruit the guys that are going to fill the holes that we are going to need from graduation. This team that I stumbled upon by getting this job, it wasn't the team I recruited, but to be left with this team that I got was probably one of the luckiest things that could have happened to me. We're so talented and we're young, which is huge for us. I didn't have to recruit these young guys. They were, we have 19 guys on the roster. More than 10 of them are underclassmen. So, this is basically our roster to ruin. But, just as long as we got the right guys in place there, add a couple coaching pieces, and dude, sky's the limit there.
If you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, one of the points of it is we want to share information in a time where some coaches and players may be unsure of things. And to answer your question, Rye, moving into a new season and redesigning a program and redeveloping a culture or starting a culture is a really scary thing. It causes anxiety. It makes you lose sleep, and you really, really have your work cut out for you. I've been blessed, like Mike said, with some awesome administrators, the greatest coaching staff. And I'm not just saying that because they're here right now. That's the truth. I've got really awesome people surrounding me. And then hardworking kids, man. And we haven't done anything yet. We are so still in that mode of like, hey, there's the mountain. We haven't even started thinking about how high it is yet. To all the coaches out there that are listening or watching, if you're starting a program or you just got hired as a new coach and you're changing a program around, just work. Get up every single morning and work. Make phone calls, do recruiting stuff, figure out a way to get your players in the most comfortable scenarios, make sure they're working out. You got to push confidence. You need to be confident with everything that you do because it's a dog-eat-dog world, and if you're not confident, you'll get eaten up pretty quickly. So
one of the setters at one of our stable teams here at Freedom, Catalina Wine Mixers, shout him out. Andrew Lee just got the head coach position at Rosemont. And
shout out.
That's awesome.
Congrats,
Andrew.
Answer my date for our scheduled match next season, you jackass.
No, for real. That's a fact.
We've been trying to schedule a match since freaking November. Figure it out.
I'm going to open up a somewhat controversial topic, maybe not for us, but something that I want to talk about. I want to explore ideas. I want to explore arguments. One thing that I have seen argued in the past that I'm going to open up to the panel here, volleyball players are getting really good. Like the level of play is higher than it's ever been. And this argument has been made in the NBA. The net height is looking a little small. Should we raise the net for pro volley, or should we keep it where it is? And why or why not? Let's explore the pros and cons of doing that. So, Mikey, as our guest, first reaction, should we raise the volleyball net height for professional level?
At this point, no. I mean, unfortunately, in America, at the very least, I still think we lose out some of the best athletes to sports like football and basketball, especially in Jersey. You know, I think Jersey is a good example. Some of the best athletes, at least in the women's sport, they don't play volleyball. They play sports like soccer, basketball, softball, lacrosse. Lacrosse is very big in New Jersey. And unfortunately, when we talk about pure athleticism, we don't have the best athletes in New Jersey playing our sport.
So from the perspective of like trying to recruit athletes to play our sport, you think it's not a good idea?
No.
What about, for example, FIVB or national teams?
Top level volleyball.
Champions League tournaments, like guys that are touching 12 feet and above.
I think it comes down to sample size. How many guys can do that? I mean,
everyone.
Probably a lot. Like imagine the NBA is saying we're going to raise the rim height. You know,
but they haven't done that in how many years? Since
no, of course. But my question is, what would be the arguments for or against that?
I don't have an argument right now. I don't. I wouldn't change it. I mean, you know, I'm a very big believer. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Why isn't volleyball more popular in America then? In Japan, in Europe, it's one of the biggest sports. We had 80,000 people to a live game in Poland. Why isn't that happening in America?
Yeah,
I don't think it's the exposure of the sport, exposure of the sport, and how the training in America. The training in America, USA Soccer try to change their model in training. I think it was 2 World Cups ago or whatever, when they didn't make the
Yeah,
what-
Yeah.
they didn't-
World Cup
they didn't
or the
qualify.
Olympics. They didn't make it, and they try to remodel the youth system to try to elevate their level of play to make more players able to go into that type of system. I just don't think we got it right now. And I think it's great that we're trying to start a professional system. I just don't think we're there yet.
So Phil, what do you think the net height should be? How high and what effect does it have on the game as a whole?
How high is the net at the moment in feet?
It is 7'11" and 5/8, I think,
All right, so raise it by half a foot.
by
So
6
that-
inches.
And what impact
Yeah,
does
that
that have?
makes it about
That's a
one-
lot. That is a lot.
that's about
That-
260.
Foot is a lot, man.
That's a
It is.
lot. We got a question on YouTube Live that says, "Doesn't Europe have twice the population of the United States?" Which is something to think about if we're talking about population in reference to how it affects the game.
As a whole, I mean,
Well, it does, sure, but what does that say about the argument that our population is X, therefore this is how we operate?
I just don't think volleyball is cool to a lot of people. Like nobody grows up and thinks, "Oh, I want to be a volleyball player." Like you probably have. Let's just list off all the states that probably think that. It's probably California, and I believe it kind of ends there. In New Jersey,
That's about it.
in New Jersey, you ask anybody here, there's maybe like a small percentage of guys that think a little bit differently, but you'll always hear a volleyball story start out with, "Oh, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played this," and
But I think that's
loved
the
it."
problem, is that this is not a state-to-state issue. It's that the United States of America has decided that the sports that we value are American football, basketball, baseball, and
Well,
maybe
well,
even hockey.
then-
So the question is not so much why isn't volleyball popular enough? We should also be asking why isn't volleyball funded enough? I mean, it's the fastest growing sport in the United States. That's true. And it's also the second biggest sport in the world. So why is our country not putting enough money into this idea? And I think that potentially the perception of the sport in the United States is just not the same as abroad, and we have to change that.
Let's just go with where we're from. We're from New Jersey, and the biggest isn't volleyball now the biggest growing sport in the country. So maybe we'll start having more kids being born in the next generation of two volleyball players. Because back in the day, there were there were like 8 schools that had volleyball, and now if we have this many schools playing volleyball, that their generation starts having kids, and it's like, hey, yeah, I played volleyball. Now little kid is starting to think about it, like, oh, maybe I want to play volleyball because I personally like that. I'm one of those rare kids that grew up to 2 volleyball playing parents. My dad didn't think about playing volleyball because both his parents didn't play, and you're starting to see a generational thing going now where my kids ask us, "Oh, mommy played volleyball and daddy coaches volleyball. I think I want to play volleyball." And I think it's going to take something like that to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think since volleyball is growing, it may go maybe the next generation.
We're getting another a comment on YouTube Live, and that is that pro games like the NFL, AVP, MLB, they have really good event staff, and the event staff is not only responsible for putting the event on, but they make it entertaining, right? Like we've all been to an event where the staff involved with the production is part of the reason that it's fun to go to. So
I watch the Super Bowl every year, mainly for the commercials and the halftime show. I know nothing about football, but I still watch it.
I think that goes all back to funding. In order to get these people who may, an event staff person who worked in the NFL or the AVP or the MLB, that person's not going to work in a volleyball event for chump change. They're going to want a quality stipend to do that. And the only way to do that is for a big sponsor to step in and say, for example, Coca-Cola, hey, we're going to sponsor this volleyball event. With that money, I think there you can put some quality entertainment. You can hire quality people to run the event. But again, this all goes back to funding and how sponsors view getting their money back on an investment like sponsoring a volleyball event.
I agree.
You know what's tough about it is what is it going to take for, I guess, the country to open their eyes up? It was maybe like 2 Olympics ago. The men's national team won gold, indoor team won gold. Women's national team won silver.
Right.
Both men and women's beach medals both went to American teams. We literally had 3 out of the 4 possible events for volleyball go gold to the States. And, we still hadn't seen a change of that. I personally thought, oh my God, we won 3 out of the 4. I think this is going to be huge for for American volleyball. So, I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. I'm kind of just, I don't know if I'm being kind of naive, just going about my business, not thinking about the bigger picture. Because I hate to see it. I kind of am that kind of guy that I stay in my lane a little bit and I don't think outside of the box. That's kind of something that I don't think about unless I'm with you guys. Like when we start having random conversations and then somebody brings that question, it's the only time I really think about it, to be honest.
The NFL, the NBA, NHL, they bring in revenue. And unfortunately, we have a pro league, the NVL, and it's slowly starting to pick up and the wheels are starting to turn, but who's watching? People want to spend money on entertainment, and it's just not there for volleyball yet in America.
Coming from where I came from, it was either you get out because you play basketball or you play football, and I did both. And the reason that happened is because the school that I went to and the surrounding cities that I was involved with, that was it. It's football or basketball. The money's got to be there. So the fact that we are talking about like the NBA or what have you, like as far as whatever organization wants to make a pro league in America, I feel like you're not going to have that unless you have that creme de la creme league in America. Like you don't have anything else to look forward to. If you play basketball, the route's different. If you play football, the route's different. And like, I know that because I lived it. And even when I was playing volleyball, not many people know this, but even when I was playing volleyball at the collegiate level, I was also on the practice team for that basketball team of the school that I went to, just in case like volleyball didn't work out. I just feel that there's not going to be a stress on like volleyball's the way unless we are going to instill a pro league and have something to look forward to, because for the most part there isn't. It's just like, okay, whatever, you find your way in volleyball and that's that, and you can hire whatever manager, whatever recruiter.
Well, growing up I played baseball and football. Why? Because the town rec program had baseball and football. So that's kind of what, as a kid, you only have so many options, depending on where you're from. It's either rec soccer, rec football, rec baseball. So those are the options that parents are putting their kids in at 5 or 6 years old. There's not many rec volleyball programs. So by the time you get to high school, you've probably played maybe 8 or 9 years of rec baseball or football. At that point, you're probably not going to switch to a sport that you've never been exposed to in high school.
Typical volleyball story. I didn't start playing until I was in high school. But what I'm starting to hear now is, oh yeah, I played in middle school. And I've very rarely ever heard that. So I want to say at least that it's trending earlier. I do see some positive trend.
I think you're right. I think, I do see kind of more towns now starting kind of youth volleyball programs in the rec system. But I think, also think about the sports that we value here, the football, the basketball. And, on a school funding level, when funds aren't well, they're not cutting basketball. They're not cutting football. They're not cutting soccer. They're cutting volleyball, so it's kind of something where people kind of have to kind of take a stand a little bit and say, why is my sport being cut? Why are we on the lower end of the totem pole? So I think if we can kind of get the sport to start at a younger level, so that kids aren't just going into their freshman year and saying, sure, I'll try it for the volleyball team. But, there's a middle school team, there's a rec team, or maybe high school coaches, or even as club coaches, maybe we ourselves have to go into the town and offer these things so that we can kind of start a new generation of volleyball players. Right.
Going off both of what you both said, we're getting a lot of comments in about this. And the first one that I see is that historically with the colonization of America comes pastimes, hobbies, and sports. And the first things that we see in this country in its inception was soccer, right? Coming over from Europe. And then we began baseball and we began football, and these things generated out of a new country. But now, as far as the generation to generation pass down, volleyball is a very new thing, right? Like some of us are getting it from our parents, but no one in my family before me has ever played this sport. I was the first one to pick it up. And I think this is more and more common. So maybe part of the reason we're not seeing an explosion that we deserve is that we're not seeing that generational pastime. And so we could talk about that in a little bit, but I'm also seeing in the comment section, people are saying things like Dante, your father, chipping in. I love that. He's saying, players have been getting taller and taller and taller and more athletic every year in basketball, but we haven't once raised the rim. And we just have sort of learned to adapt to the game, right? Like players are getting bigger, they're getting faster, they're getting stronger. And but we haven't changed the circumstances of the game. So
right. Point guards are primary dunkers.
Sure. And back in the day that was not the case. So going forward with volleyball, we're gonna get bigger guys. We're gonna get guys that jump higher, we're gonna get guys that hit harder. So, should we let that influence the parameters of the game, or should we keep the game as so? And,
for someone who doesn't know volleyball, when they first see a volleyball match ever, what are they going to be excited by or entertained by?
Well, that was kind of what I was going to touch on is, if we change the game and make it more challenging, now people, as Phil mentioned, people who don't know the sport and going to a game, it's like, well, I thought I was going to see somebody smash the ball. I think that there's a certain time and place to kind of make the game more challenging, but I think we need to get a crowd and we need to get people behind it before we do that.
Well, that's why I think the men's game has loosened up on, like, let's say double contact to let the rallies go a little longer. People are staying.
Yep.
Well, and you're saying the rally's going longer, and isn't putting the net up going to allow the rallies to go longer? You see, the crowds build up in big tournaments and big games. Crowds get louder or quieter as the rally goes on, and it goes for longer and longer and longer. And isn't that what's producing all that excitement? All these people are really keen to see what's going to happen next, rather than this 7-second point. Serve, error, dig smash, all that crap. It's quick, it's short. Instead, if we raise the net up, change some other rules, make these rallies go on longer, isn't that going to bring more excitement, make it more interesting for the spectators?
Well,
and that's another thing that my father touched on when he did watch our previous podcast, was that loosening the calls for doubles and raising the net of the height is honestly just to move the game along. So but
you want to speed it up rather than slow it down.
Well, so part of the way that we're trying to reach a new audience and grow the game is making the game more watchable, right? More interesting. And I think changes like this are they're attempts to do that. They're attempts to make the game more accessible, to grow it faster, right? Are they working so far?
Personally, I don't think so, because I'm still from the time of when setting is an art. So the fact of botching a ball 30 feet across the court isn't exciting to me, because I'll see someone who I idolize botch a ball 30 feet and be like,
These are generational differences, right? And I don't mean to say that
Right, no, I completely understand.
This is kind of the progression of any sport, right? Talk to anyone who watched football in the 70s and ask them what their opinion of it now, NFL football. And I would imagine that they would have quite an opinion on, okay, back in the day, this is what I like. And now they're doing all this shit and I don't like that. But I think that this is a natural part of the growth of a sport. And I personally am open to that sort of growth.
Speaking of rule changes, there's been many rules brought in and taken out. For example, the old rally rule. You can only win a point on your own serve. They took that away. Game survived and done really well. They brought in the rule of the libero. That's turned out to be a fantastic rule. Changing the net height, sure, it might be difficult for some. And we've got another comment here saying, if the net height was the real issue, then why are there still losers and winners? I think it's not a game about the net. I personally think it's a game about who lets the ball drop.
Which, at its very core is the point. Yeah. About 1 or 2 years ago, the FIVB had a juniors tournament. It was a U21 national tournament. And they used this tournament as an opportunity to introduce 2 new rules that are controversial at best. But they did it for the purpose of, let's see if these work. Let's see if these rules make the game better. And those rules were for service and back row attack. The player, for example, the serving player, if you were jumping, you had to jump and land before the service line. And the same thing was true of the backcourt spiker. If you were hitting, for example, a bick, you had to jump and land before the 3-meter line. So they're doing this to try and see how can this affect the game? Is this going to make the game, is it going to make it better? Is it going to make rallies longer? And to my knowledge, they only tried it for that one tournament. And in my opinion, I hate that rule. I think that rule sucks, but I appreciate that they're trying to do that, right? So, I mean, first off, what are our opinions of that rule? Like, what do we think about rules going forward? Like how should we try to implement rules? What should the purpose of them be?
I personally think when you're talking about the serve rule, that back row attack rule, and even the raising of the height, it's just ways to extend rallies. And I think for women's volleyball is more known for the rallies. What's men's volleyball more known for? It's literally just the power and
power.
Let's just say power. Now, if that's what's attracting us to men's volleyball, I think all those things are kind of it's not going to make the game better for what it's known for. Because if you can't land in front, like the biggest thing right now is the most popular like flavor of the week, especially I believe in D3, is that BIC. It's just become such a popular part of
BIC is statistically your best option.
Yeah.
Out of how many times a BIC is run, I think 80% of the time you score off it in good situation.
The shorter answer is when they tried this rule at the FIVB, they tried it for one tournament and it failed. And of course, the purpose is to extend rallies, right? To extend the game, make it more watchable. Because I guess longer rallies, longer play equates to watchability. I don't know. If your purpose is to extend watchability, maybe you've succeeded. But at the same time, you're taken away from, like Phil said, one of the most opportunistic and most effective plays, especially in men's volleyball. The BIC attack is run more often than like many front court options. So you're sacrificing one thing for the other. And I guess the question is, what is the greater good? Do we want to appeal to a non-volleyball watching audience, or do we want to make the game better in and of itself? And I don't know the answer to that. I guess it depends what your priorities are, but I understand what it was trying to do, but it was not like 2 steps back, 1 step forward. It was like 5 steps back. And I just didn't really care for that.
I feel like that's a dumb rule.
Like coming from a very jaded,
Turn your live off, people.
Myself,
It's just
Figure it out.
75% of my swings.
I love listening to myself.
I don't want to hear
You
Dante
gotta shut it off.
twice. I don't want to hear Dante twice.
Once is enough.
some of these guys, if you see some of the best servers in the world best jump servers in the world, if you see where they land on the court, it's like they're contacting the ball where they normally would be hitting this back row ball with the neutral. So essentially, you've just added instead of a back row attack, it is now just a regular jump serve.
You've added 20 feet.
The line. I just don't. It's not what people come to watch men's volleyball for.
We have a YouTube comment, and this person is saying that they have heard a rumor. And whether or not that rumor is true, I kind of want to entertain this idea. And the idea is that we will be removing the concept that libros can hand set the ball, just in general. Regardless of whether or not that rumor is true, let's actually take seriously that idea, and let's talk about what that would do for the game.
We want to keep rallies going and make sure this sport is entertaining. You got to keep it.
When I played in Paris, I was fortunate enough to be a part of the team with Taichiro Koga, who's currently the Japan national team libero. And the system that we ran was, if our setter takes it, no matter where it is, our libero, Taichi, he is going to set that ball, no matter where it is. He ran 31s with our middle from off his shoulder behind his back. Like,
I love that.
It's so aggressive and exciting to watch.
Every time officials debate a new rule addition, what we're trying to get at is, how is this going to benefit the game? So just taking hypothetically the idea that libros can no longer hand set to an attacker, like, is there any argument to be made that would benefit the game?
Well, if we want to talk about bringing a bigger crowd and a bigger in terms of entertainment, you keep it in, because it's just like Phil said, it's entertaining. It's crazy to see some guy coming 10 feet behind the line and setting a ball that's a little out of whack. That's fun to watch.
It definitely adds some energy, you know, when that little hand sets it and it's a butter set to a pin
100%.
and you get a kill. I mean, people are like, holy crap, I'm into it now.
We all love
Right.
crazy. Everybody loves crazy.
I mean, that's part of the game, right? Is like we always see these like Sports Center top tens, and what those plays are just like really fucking good plays within the parameters of their sport. We see this in sports that we know, right? Like let's say like a golf top 10 comes on, like everyone knows golf. Even if you don't follow golf, you get the general idea of golf. And then you see some shit and you're like, that was kind of cool. And like you don't care about golf at all. For volleyball, it's like whenever we have a top 10 play, like it's impressive as fuck, but it's also impressive to volleyball players. So like we need to establish that mainstream appreciation of the game. And that doesn't mean that good plays are going to go away. What we're seeing already is in the progression of the game is that typically in the past, a setter digs the first touch, right? And the libero is the person to step in and set the second ball. But now what we're seeing a lot, especially in Canada, they've been promoting the fuck out of this, and I love it.
Position 6?
But yeah, when the setter digs the ball, the outside hitter in position 6 is the next person to set the ball. Sometimes what they'll do is after the setter digs, they'll just spike it on 2, or we're seeing something, especially shout out to Trinity Western University in Canada, CIS League, one of the top university programs in the Canada League. These guys they're the setters digging the first ball. These dudes from 6 are jumping and killing the ball on 2, or jumping, fake spike, and setting someone. And that is revolutionary. I love that.
That is starting to become more popular to do. A lot of Polish teams and the Italian teams have also adapted that where position 6 takes that ball. I think Engapet started doing that with Bruno in Modena a couple of years ago. That's when I first started to see it more.
That play started to become more the norm, because even in adult club tournaments, you're starting to see people make that same move. So that, you know, it may be that may be the new BIC in a couple of years. That's just fully what the new hotness is going to be.
It's so cool.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think it's the future, right? Because think about what it does for your libero. Typically, liberos are the person that steps in, they set the second touch. But like, what is a libero good for? They receive, they defend, and they cover. You have position 6, probably not going to get an attack opportunity. If they can set the ball and that frees your libero up to go maybe cover the ball, or I don't know, like somehow get a play out of it. I think it's brilliant. And plus you add the option of the position 6 player potentially scoring on 2. So you're just keeping the defense on their toes at all times. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's something that Canada has done a great job of teaching at a youth level. And I think it's something that we in the States need to adopt at a youth level.
If we're going with Gold Medal Squared's philosophy of running that BIC out of system is just not a good idea. Canada may be one step ahead of us going, well, we know that's true. That's why we're giving second ball to zone 6 now. And it's up to him what he wants to do with it, because technically you're not running BIC out of system anymore because it's kind of a sneak attack now. See, now I'm thinking about it while we're talking about it. I'm like, should I implement that in D3 next season? And I just know the personality of my outside hitters. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to set this every time. Double, double, double. I'm like, you know, why did I even teach you guys this?
Mike Bond wants to know if we weren't all trapped in the house on Always More Line because of quarantine, what would we be doing?
Yeah, I think I have the best answer to this question. You guys ready for this one? My wife's working tonight, so I would be in the exact same spot that I'm in. If this podcast did not exist, I would literally just be like this.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, we're in the end of March. We're just about to get into April. And, indoor season, in my opinion, is still going until USAV Nationals. But outdoor season has very much started. Like, typically at this point in time, the NVA season starts in a week, but outdoor season is thriving. Guys and girls are playing beach and grass. And I guess the simple answer is, in a normal life, people are playing volleyball and they're interacting. Part of the reason we started this show is to try to connect people, try to connect players that otherwise would not be at home.
Now that I seriously got a chance to think about it during Ryan's answer, Justin, myself, and Coach Mike over there are from New Jersey City University, and the men's team was independent for the last couple seasons. So we just got back in the Skyline Conference, which meant we could have played for an NCAA bid for the tournament. And this would have been the week leading up to our conference tournament. And that was a big thing we were all excited about. The guys who have been on the team for a couple of years were basically playing for nothing. This season was exciting to them because they were going to get a chance to play for that bid. You know, it's really heartbreaking, the fact that, you know, we were leading up to this date this weekend to go play in that tournament, and it's not going to happen now. So realistically, right now, I would probably be watching video on every team we'd possibly be playing.
Cool.
So now I'm sad.
That's not something to take lightly. Like, even in normal circumstances where people will be playing, like we still are putting the time in to watch film, to prepare, right? Like, that stuff doesn't stop. So I appreciate that point of view. You know, the typical answer is the one that I gave. Like, I'd be outside, I'd be having a barbecue. But like, the truth is that volleyball doesn't stop. You know, we should be prepping, we should be watching, we should be engaged in the sport year round.
Today, I sent a video of me. This was during a tournament earlier in the year where I did selfishly put myself in during one of Freedom's tournaments. If we had a sizable lead, I was throwing myself in. So I showed a video of my guys playing the Freedom guys playing the NJCU guys before I got the job there. I ran the middle on a 31. We were in row 1, and I ran the outside on like a bit of a tempoed back set. Some of the guys on my team were like, "Oh, I had no idea." And I told them, I was like, "Yeah, if you run that 31, you're probably gonna have a one-on-one situation on the right side." Considering we're not in season anymore, I was still technically coaching those guys.
Just anyone that's tuned in at the moment, Mike is an assistant coach at New Jersey City University. He's also a police officer during the day in Bayonne. As we wind down here, what's something that you're going to do to keep busy during this time?
I'm actually studying. Let me get it for you.
Studying sounds fun.
For the sergeant's exam, I've been reading at least 2 hours a day, trying to, expand my knowledge in law enforcement and law in itself. But if I wasn't quarantined, I'd probably take my girlfriend out for a nice little seafood.
Good answer. Good answer, Mike. Good answer.
Look, I've just been studying, just trying to be sane, reaching out. Justin and I and Coach Carla have been talking every day. Recruiting, trying to get things going on our side, and it's a very interesting time we're living in. This is going to be history books.
What a time to be alive, huh?
For real. I mean, as it's a sad time, but it's very interesting because, like the Spanish flu of the 1918s. This is it. I mean, this is legit.
Mike, since you're the guest on at the moment, we have a very crucial question. Where do you think the Faroe Islands are located?
Justin and I were talking about this today. Somewhere east of the States.
The world is round.
I mean, hey,
that's not wrong.
That ain't wrong.
Not wrong.
But also, like, we live on a globe, so potentially just give us your best guess.
I'm almost there. Hold on.
Almost there. He's traveling there as we speak. He's almost there, guys.
Looking it up.
Google Maps. Come on.
Somewhere
Loading.
Somewhere out there,
Good answer. Good answer.
I do have an open question for the panel so we can finish up here. This will be our last question for the night, and we'll just chat about it for 2 or 3 minutes. I want you to rank the positions of volleyball from most important to least important as quick as you can. So, like in football, obviously, you'd probably go with quarterback first, right? Basketball gets a little bit more difficult. So I want you to just rank volleyball and the importance of the positions in chronological order. Mike, you can go first.
All right. My girlfriend, Sophie.
Yep.
Then it's...
That's a good answer.
I had to chat her out real quick. Position-wise, I'm going to go with the setters. I'm going to go with the back row players. Coach Justin knows this. I call them all DSs / liberos. They're all the same to me, unfortunately. And then the wing attackers.
Okay, real quick, before we go on, I'm going to get Danny's next. Mike Mon just brought this up, and I totally need to shout this out. The Pop Idel tournament was supposed to take place this upcoming weekend. It's the longest tenured volleyball tournament in the world. The last time it was canceled was during World War II. So just to give you a little brief history, the coronavirus has now canceled Pop Idel tournament, which takes place in Kutztown, Pennsylvania.
So coronavirus is as important as the World War II.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Influential, sorry.
Danny, go ahead. Rank your positions.
I think I have to agree with Mike. I'd say setters, lib DS's, pins, and middle.
Middle
Okay.
last.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I'm going from a serving standpoint. I think that's your first aspect of offense is your serving. And it goes from there. I mean, we talk with our team and I'm very heavily influenced by Kelly Sheffield at the University of Wisconsin. I mean, it's a battle between serve and reception. That's your first main battle. That's your mini game within the game is can you get your team in system or can you get the other team out of system?
Dante, what do you think?
You know what?
Personally, like,
Let's get that right side out there.
No,
first.
no. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. I will personally say that it's a setter, quarterback of the team, plain and simple.
I think that this is something that we will have an extended conversation about. I love this
I wanna be
topic.
here next time.
Yeah.
I will say that it's the setter. Second in command, libero. Third in command, the middles. 110%.
I think we're opening up a can of worms here. This is a
That's
topic.
right.
And then it's outside right side.
Pin hitters.
Now
So,
I understand this is coming from a right side's perspective.
Argument.
You voted yourself last.
Next.
Last, 100%
next?
last, because I feel like in any tough situation that I've ever been in has been like I'm the trash man. Like
All right,
I'm gonna
well-
put up nonsense and you
Right,
figure
so-
it the fuck out.
We have to have an extended conversation about that. But guys, we've just about come to the end of the show. Everybody who's been watching, thank you so much. We are always more live. We're going to be here a couple times a week doing live shows, and also check out the YouTube channel, Always More Line on YouTube. We have interviews, we have special guests, we have games. It's just a good conversation with players, coaches, referees, even club parents. Just around the world, we try to get a lot of different perspectives and talk the game. So I want to give a special thanks, Mike Kuchka. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Guys, I
My
really
guy.
Thanks, Mike.
And please join us in the future. We'll probably be on live maybe 1 or 2 days, 3 or 4 times a week, I hope. So thank you for everyone that tuned in. My name is Ryan.
Justin.
Danny.
Your residential line swinger, Dante McCoy.
Don't forget Carlo Edra, greatest standing float serve in the East Coast.
And Phil. See you
My
guys.
Thank you guys so
Good
much
night,
for
guys.
tuning in. We'll
Take
see you
care.
next
Thanks for joining us.
Stay classy.